I've been on a kick in EDH lately with playing the new Theros Beyond Death legendaries, and I've got one that everybody's been talking about for you today. Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. Let's ramp some mana, y'all. Video starts right now. Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below. Hello and welcome to the day. Thank you for spending your time with us. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. I am Joel. We're going to talk about the Titan of Nature's Wrath in EDH, but before we do, if you wouldn't mind, if you like the video by the end of it, hit that subscribe button. It super helps us out. Let's move over to the deck. Let's look at this mana curve. Ay, ay, ay. 8 cards, 4 CMC, 5 cards, 5 cards, 6, 8 cards, 7 CMC, 3 cards, 8 CMC. This deck has a high mana curve. When I was putting this deck together, it's worth noting that as I was perusing online and seeing how other people had built for inspiration, I found a list that I thought was perfect. It was exactly what I wanted to play, it's exactly what I was going to build, and we were going to be able to shortcut the process a little bit. So I have linked that deck down in the description below. That is the version of the deck we are playing. Let us look at the deck. Uro. 3 mana, sacrifice it unless it was escaped, enters the battlefield or attacks, you gain 3 life, you draw a card, and you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. That is huge, especially when you combine it with a card like Altar of Dementia. Sack a creature, target player puts a number of cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power from the top of their library into their graveyard. Play Uro on turn 3, play Altar of Dementia turn 2, play Uro on turn 3, sack Uro as it goes to be sacked because it did not escape. Send it to the graveyard, escape it for 4, you've got a 6/6 that's ETBing and swinging, gaining you 3 life and drawing a card every turn. That's just one little fun way to win with this deck. Look at this, we've got a few columns here. I normally like to divide these deck techs into columns that have similar themes, and as you can see, we only have 5 here. You ready? Ramp. This is more ramp. That's one column, but we just had so much ramp I wanted to divide it into 2. We have here tricks and removal. We have here card draw, and we have here big mana fun. We're going to consistently be able to cast so many of these cards for big mana fun. It's a blast to play. Here we're drawing cards. Here we can return Uro to our hand so he doesn't get sacked. We can Rancor and make Uro a trampler. It's removal. It's capsize with buyback. It's counterspell. It's theft. It's fighting. Here's some more theft. Here's some fighting. Here's some more removal. It's such a fun deck, but it's very straightforward. Ramp and play big spells. Beat your opponents, to turn 7 or 8 by turn 4 or 5 so that you're slamming down these huge, impactful spells before they even get a chance to get their ground defense going. That's pretty much the entire deck tech. Let's jump into the gameplay so you can see how it operates. We don't get to go first, but we look at our opening hand. We've got some big payoffs, and we've got essentially a mana rock. That Kraken starts as a 4-cost mana rock that slowly turns into a 12/12 creature. On our opponent's side, we've got Heliod, mono white. We've got Marwyn, mono green. And we've got Lazav Dimir deck going. I would say off the rip, power level just off Commander, we're a little bit higher than our opponents, but Heliod can be very good, and depending on how Dimir is built and optimized, it could be very, very good as well. We do keep our opening hand. We have a lot of mana ramp in this deck, and so chances are we'll draw it. We also have the mana rock, so right now we've got before we drew Primal Growth, we had a turn 3 Uro, turn 4 mana rock, and that's going to lead to some pretty good ramping for us. We want to try and get to Sandwurm Convergence as quickly as possible and just start pooping out 5/5s every single turn. And with Blatant Thievery, we do kind of want to wait until we've got 3 great targets. Up in the top left, our Heliod opponent has played Soul Ring. So they're ramping a little bit. Our Elves opponent is doing what Elves do and putting a lot of Elves onto the battlefield. We play a Hinterland Harbor. We have no other place, so we tap and pass. That's a little, if you've never played EDH on MTGO, that's a little trick. You can select to yield all, if you have no possible play, and if you've got untapped mana, you technically have a possible play of adding white mana to your mana pool, or adding any mana to your mana pool. Sorry, our white opponent up there is playing the silence so that nobody can cast more than one non-creature a turn. And now our green opponent is going to have a lot of mana to tap to play the Rex Sage, and I believe they ace the Soul Ring here. Yes, they ace the Soul Ring. So the MTGO trick is if you tap out, you have no possible play, so you automatically yield all. It saves time. It saves time on your clock bank, and it also kind of helps the game go faster. I encourage players to do it, especially for the opening turns. There's not a lot game changing that you're going to do at instant speed within the first 3 to 4 turns if you're not playing CEDH. If it's a casual game, you know, it's very customary for players to select yield all for no possible play and then just tap out every turn. We draw another land, and here we've got a choice. We can Primal Growth or we can Uro. We decide we might as well start the Uro train running. We want to make sure he's going to the right place right now. We want to cast him off of the command zone once and then have him go back to the command zone once. But after that, we want him to go to the graveyard. So we'll be able to play him for 3 and then for 5 as a ramp spell, gain a life, draw a card. And after that second time, we don't want to play him for 7. So we'd rather him just go to the graveyard from there on out and be cast for 4 as a 6/6 that does the same thing. So you see there, we do the same trick. We just use the mana we've got, put an extra mana onto the field, and tap it all out, and then pass. So our Heliod got their Soul Ring busted. Our Dimir opponent has played Psychic Corrosion so that Lazav has got targets. And then our Heliod opponent does something very interesting against our deck and Lazav, and that is Rest in Peace. Kind of crazy. Might have to deal with that. Otherwise, you know, hopefully we can get a good base going without having to cast Uro from the graveyard. You know, we've got 2, maybe 3 more casts off of Uro, just based on how much ramp is in the stack and how we're definitely going to get to 9 or 10 lands. But we can Arithmesis next turn and be up to 6 or 7 by our turn 6, turn 5, and be ready to cast Sandwurm Convergence pretty early, which is essentially all we're trying to do at this point, is just race to Sandwurm Convergence and hope that it doesn't get answered. If nobody's answering, I mean, the green player, they already played Rex Sage. They probably most likely have 2 or 3 more ways to deal with targeted enchantment removal, to deal targeted enchantment removal, and they probably have at least 1 way to do mass enchantment and artifact removal, and so that'll be interesting to see. They played an interesting card there, that untap card on the elf commander there. It lets you untap it once per turn, and so you can add extra mana, which Marwyn is already doing. I thought it was a nice little trick that I hadn't seen. Here we're gonna go Weird Harvest. Everybody's going to get a creature card from their library and put it into their hand. So we're gonna use this to do what we do best, 3 or less. So we're gonna go look for a good ramp, something that adds mana, maybe something we can sack 4 mana. Plus, if we have enough, we can cast a 2 or a 1 mana dork. Oh yeah, that's right, we get to select multiple. So if we go this route, we can cast a lot in 1 turn, which is kind of the route we choose to go. As far as board wipe goes, we've got threat always from Heliod's deck, most likely, that board wipe is possibly going to happen. Green, it's unlikely that they'll have any board wipe. Blue and black most likely is running something like Damnation, but has at least a board wipe or 2 in their main deck, I wouldn't doubt. But here we're set up to play all of these things next turn: Sakura, Tribe Elder, and the Elves and the Bird. And so we kind of put our eggs into the mana producing creatures basket to really ramp us up to Sandwurm Convergence as quickly as possible. Green deck keeps doing what green deck does, and that's putting elves onto the battlefield, searching lands up, untapping things when it's coming into play. You know the drill. That is what the elf is doing. We then get a sneaky cheeky swords to plowshares from the white opponent. And our green opponent suddenly doesn't have all of the mana in the friggin' world. So they now are tapped out, with the exception of their Rex Sage, which they could swing with. But that's all they've got there. So we're looking at our hand. Next turn we're going to be on 5 mana. We've got 4 mana of stuff to play with Sakura Tribe Elder and the elves and the birds, while our green player now plays Survival of the Fittest. That's not going to be fun to deal with. You know, it's interesting though. Everything, because of Rest in Peace, is going to the graveyard, so there's not much. I mean, is going to exile, excuse me. So there's no recursion happening. Rexage does end up taking a 2 damage secured swing over towards Heliod in recompense for their lost commander. And it passes to our Dimir player's turn. So we've got the Elder and the Birds and the Elves that we can play next turn. We could potentially get a Primal Growth going as well. Probably not all on the same turn, but we can sack our, one of our mana dorks to ramp up even further. At that point, our middle player concedes. The Elves player is just over it and doesn't want to do it anymore. So it doesn't really change our play. We're mostly always just ramping up until we've got 6, 7, 8 lands on the battlefield. This deck is very solitaire. It's got some interaction. As you can see, we drew a negate on that last turn. But as far as like a ton of interaction, we don't have a lot of it. We checked the chat there to see if our middle opponent gave us some inclination as to why they conceded, but they did not. So now we've got a 3-person game. This I like though, because this is unlike a lot of when somebody concedes on MTGO. Some person has run away with the game, and now instead of having 3 people to deal with ushering that person back down to the proper echelon, we end up just getting overrun. That happens a lot on MTGO when people drop, and it can kind of ruin the game. However, with this one, most everybody had just been playing lands. At this point, we're probably the furthest ahead. We're definitely 1 extra land up on everybody, and we've got 2 dorks and a Sakura Tribe Elder. If you missed it while I was talking about the dropout there, Linvala hit the battlefield, and like some kind of punk, I forgot to respond and sacked the Sakura Tribe Elder. So now the Sakura Tribe Elder is stuck being a 1/1, and we have no way of doing that. So suddenly getting rid of Linvala has become priority number 1 for us. We do have 6 mana, though, so we can do some things. We're not completely out of options. We can recast Uro for a second time, get a draw, get 3 life, and possibly put another land onto the battlefield should we top deck it, which we do, and go to 2 mana. Now we're open for a negate if that happens to be necessary. We've got Friendhorn Elves and Sakura Tribe Elder that we can attack with, so we're gonna poke at the player that doesn't have anything that they can block, and we're gonna pass. We're just gonna stay open for negate at this point. Altar of Dementia is great, but we'd rather stay open with negate at this point, just in case some craziness goes down, and we don't want it to go down. So now we're staxing over here. The Vanguard makes non-creature spells cost 1 more, and then the human there is going to be searching stuff up, searching lands up anyway. At this point, we expect them to swing at us with Linvala and Heliod, but both creatures go at the player without anything to block. So at this point, I guess the white player has selected Dimir as a bigger threat over me, which is fine. And I mean, at this point, honestly, some mana dorks, 7 mana on the battlefield. We do have a full grip, but the Dimir player's got 9 cards in hand. The Heliod player's down to 3. And so, you know, both of us seem like we're primed to do something. Evil Twin hits the battlefield, and we're kind of nervous here because we don't know what it's going to take the form of, and it takes the form of Linvala. Fantastic. So now we've got 2 Linvalas to deal with. Luckily, we still have Blatant Thievery in our hand, and now we've got the mana, I believe, yes, to cast it. So we can just take both Linvala, and then we have the byproduct of turning off Heliod, which is nice, and then the effect is all on our side. We will have to sacrifice one of the Linvalas, which sucks to use our Blatant Thievery that way, but, you know, we don't want to be hamstrung right now. We also have the play path of not worrying about it right now, getting some other stuff onto the battlefield, and waiting to see if Dimir is going to handle the other Linvala for us. One of the things going in our favor is that the Dimir player's Linvala is a shapeshifter that can destroy their Linvalas. So maybe we can go that way and count on Dimir to do our job for us so that we can get better value out of Blatant Thievery. We're trying to cast Primal Growth here, and we finally do it. We can sacrifice the elves to go get 2 extra lands. Yeah, we'll go ahead and take the counters down on our sleeping land. We're gonna end up holding on to that. That's one that I like with, if it's not the main thing of your deck, you can get the 5 counters on it, and then you can take it all off down to 1 and leave it as I'll transform that when I want to, especially if you're running some instant speed stuff. You know, after a board wipe, maybe something like that. It's a good way to suddenly wake up a land. You don't always have to be removing those counters. That's how I like to play it anyway. So now we've got Heliod and Linvala swinging again. Our Heliod opponent up here didn't play anything this turn. They just drew a card, play a land, and now is swinging. So all of that stuff swings in, deals even further damage to everyone, and the Dimir player untaps. We're playing, right now it's a pretty fair game, and I still haven't gone off. I'm still just playing the let's stay open, win negate, and to protect basically a board of nothing, I guess. To protect our hand, I guess, is fair. And then with a Dimir player in there. And then, you know, start jamming a 9-cost spell every turn. We don't want to wait too much longer because our opponents are going to catch up to us on mana eventually. Here's a Ravenous Chupacabra that's pretty well received on our side, as long as it's not hitting our creature. And yes, thank goodness it's hitting Linvala. Turns off Heliod. Now we can get full value out of our Blatant Thievery next turn. And we know that the white player is probably not going to respond at instant speed, at least to stop a Blatant Thievery. And the Dimir player is now tapped out. Perfect time. We are in a great place. We've got Linvala to take over here. We can take the Vanguard. You know, there's options over there. Let's make sure we tap correctly, because this is going to cost us 1 more. Steal the Heliod, steal the Linvala. That seems pretty good, right? Happy to take your general and just stick it over here. That's going to turn off a lot of their strategies, a lot of their synergies, and it's just going to kind of tuck it away to a place where they can't get it. You know, it's just going to be on our side of the battlefield, and there's not really much they can do about it other than try and destroy a legendary indestructible enchantment, which is not super easy. Easier, I would argue, easier to do with a white deck than it is to do with most other decks. Now everything is online for us. We can't swing with the Linvala, we're just going to pass, but we've started this, like, now we're just going to jam big things every turn and do a lot of stuff. We wish that we would have had our Uro online this whole game, but that Rest in Peace hit early, and it is, I'm assuming, affected the game. I would love to see what Dimir is holding in their hand, because I'm assuming that both of our decks were pretty well affected by an early Rest in Peace, which is crazy. So now our white opponent is doing some stuff. We've got a 6/6 lifelinking flyer in Serra Ascendant, because that's fair in EDH. And then we've got a Sanctum Prelate, which the chosen number is 2, and now 2 is shut down across the battlefield. Yet again, didn't sack my Sakura Tribe Elder, just let that happen. Got a flyer going over the Chupacabra to hit our Dimir opponent. They're still targeting over there, even though I've stolen their Heliod. I mean, Linvala's a fantastic blocker, though. I think both of us, Dimir and I, are now worried about that Serra Ascendant. Flying 6/6 lifelinker, nobody currently has the means of dealing with on the board. And so we're going to need to do something about that. What this deck doesn't have a ton of is targeted removal. This deck really intends to go, my deck, over the top as quickly as possible and just stomp our opponents down before they can really have much of a chance to set up. Clone hits. Linvala, I bet, is going to be targeted with this. Yet again, shut off activated abilities. Yep, shutting off mine. And you know what I do? I don't sack Sakura Tribe. Sakura Tribe has been the most worthless Snake Shaman this game because of my inability to respond to things. We realize that we can't cast Fact or Fiction because that damn horse is still on the battlefield. But what we do find is a Mind's Dilation, and that's what I'm talking about. We just need to be jamming big things. Mind's Dilation is such good value. Whenever an opponent casts their first spell, they flip over the top card of their library, and if it's a non-land card, you can cast it without paying its mana cost. Just incidental value. It's all lucky value, but it's all incidental. We can't do anything about the Serra Ascendant, and so we're going to cast Mind's Dilation and hope that, we get lucky. It's funny, Mind's Dilation also triggers off of instant speed, so if Dimir opponent instant speeds during Heliod's turn, I get a card off of their library for that, because that's technically their first spell this turn, and Mind's Dilation says first spell each turn, not on their turn. Here comes the 6/6 lifelinker, swinging in. We gotta find out what's going to happen with it. I think everybody's starting to feel the end. We got Mind's Dilation on the battlefield. They don't know we've got Sandwurm Convergence to come under and just absolutely lock this up. First inclination that they swing at us with that Serra Ascendant. We drop Sandwurm Convergence. I mean, honestly, we're not that scared of flyers. I doubt that they have any enchantment removal. I think if they did, they would have already used it on Mind's Dilation. And Sandwurm Convergence is going to shut off flying attackers coming at us anyway. Plus, we'll just be pumping out a 5/5 every single turn. Incidentally. So, each opponent discards 2 cards. Fine. We get a Mind's Dilation. What do we get? What do we get? What do we get? I don't really know what happens here. It is an artifact. It's a non-land card. We can't end up paying it. I don't know if this was a glitch. It's just a mana rock. That's all it is. But because we can't play it, we just say pass, okay, whatever. At this point, we don't really need the Altar or the Cavalier. Cavalier is just fine at this point. More lands is not really what we need. We need payoffs. We need things like Thorn Mammoth to come in and start fighting these creatures down as much as possible. Skyshroud Claim, whatever. Don't really need it. We're just jamming Sandworm here. We didn't get anything off of Mind's Dilation on the first pass around, so we're hoping that on the second pass around we can. We take the final counter off of the 12/12 that we're going to until we really need that 12/12. And what I mean by really, really, really means is wait until a board wipe happens, because we're going to be pumping out 5/5s every turn now, so we definitely don't need the 12/12. And when we do, it'll be ready. We play one spell like Skyshroud Claim or something, and it turns into a 12/12 that can swing. So the 6/6 swings yet again. No casts from the Heliod player yet again. Mind's Dilation needs targets. It's hungry. Here it comes. Noxious Gearhulk hits the battlefield. Hello, answer to Serra Ascendant. And we know that Serra Ascendant is getting targeted by that Noxious Gearhulk, because our top left opponent's only been attacking our top right opponent for some reason. Well, they obviously couldn't attack us at this point now. But we do get a free Jace, which is cool, off of Mind's Dilation, I guess. Jace Wielder's pretty solid. At least we can draw some cards. There goes the Serra Ascendant to the Noxious Gearhulk. They do gain 6 life, so they are at 53. And, you know, we're just rocking and rolling now. We've got mana to do anything we want. We've got Sandwurm Convergence. We've got Mind's Dilation. And lo and behold, we top deck an Agent of Treachery. You know, why not? At this point, we have Linvala that's not ours, Heliod that's not ours, and Jace that's not ours. A clause on Agent of Treachery that a lot of people forget about because mostly you've only encountered this card in Standard and it steals something and then that's pretty much it within the deck that it does. But at the bottom it says, I think if you control 3 or more permanents that aren't yours, you get to draw cards. Which this deck, we have you know, a little sub-theme because of what we've done that we get to steal stuff from our opponents. We steal the Linvala to kill the Linvala. You know, create another worm. Pass. We can swing at our white opponent because they've only got a 2/2, a 1/1, and a 2/2. And if they want to trade all 3 of those to kill a worm token that we're going to get another one of anyway, fine, go ahead. We've got the mana to do this, and at this point, you know, why not just blow it up? Really make sure that nothing's going to get us down. But we also have the negate, so we could stay open for the negate, which is what we end up deciding to do. Bloodchief Ascension goes off and gets a counter for the first time this game because we and the Heliod player haven't been taking any damage, only the Dimir player. And so we've gotten no triggers off of Bloodchief. We draw 3 cards off of Agent of Treachery. Enlightened Tutor happens on our end step, and so we get a Devoted Caretaker. Sure, white mana. We can make a white mana with our Birds of Paradise. Target permanent you control gains protection. Okay, sounds good. That's a pretty dope one to pull at this point. It doesn't have haste, unfortunately, but you know, it is what it is. We can't be greedy. Beggars can't be choosers. We're getting free stuff, you know. They Enlightened Tutor put something on top of their library. We'll see what that something is when they draw it here and play it, because it is their only card in hand. They revealed the Scrapyard. Okay, kind of interesting. There's the Recombiner. They can go get some other constructs. Mind's Dilation's going to get another trigger. We miss on that one. It's just a land. What can you do? You can't always hit a winner. We've got a lot of stuff at this point. We've just got a lot of stuff going. They've still got a flyer, I believe. That is a flyer attacking the Dimir player yet again, who goes to 10 at this point. You know, nobody's really screwing with us. We've stolen the Heliod, so the Heliod's gone. We've got Mind's Dilation and the Sandworm on the battlefield, so those two, until they're removed, are just going to cause havoc and absolutely snowball this game out of control for our opponents. We brick. It's a snow-covered swamp. We brick on that Mind's Dilation. They're playing Liliana. We're trying to decide whether or not we're going to negate it. For some reason, it won't let us negate it. I think that it's because of the 3-cost creature up there I'm not super familiar with. But we can still Factor Fiction. You know, why not? And honestly, the Liliana's fine. We really just wanted to turn Liliana off so that they weren't searching their library for the perfect card, but it is what it is. This is our opponent's Factor Fiction for me, and they choose, here you can have all 5. So I'm just like, okay, I'll take all 5. You know, we might have to end up discarding, but we've got plenty of lands at this point. You know, we definitely don't need cards like Wild Growth. We could Explosive Vegetation or I mean, even Zendikar Resurgent so that we can draw cards, but it is what it is. So Liliana's doing here what we thought Liliana was going to do, and that is tutoring up cards. You know, can't really do anything about it at this point. They're not attacking. Obviously, their life total is way too low. We're just going to go ahead and sack our Sakura so we can get one more land on their EOT. Might as well. Why not? Destroy an artifact or enchantment. So this will pretty much here hand them a loss. We can kill their one blocker, their Noxious Gearhulk, and wake up our slumbering island. we're trying to go for a win here as soon as possible. Draw a card just to see what we get. Oh, baby, and we get Capsize with buyback there. And we got a ton of mana. We're going to be good. We're going to be good here. Plus, we've got Negate if anything does happen to happen. So, here we want to try and swing down Liliana. Both worms can go towards Liliana, and then our 12/12, they can't, our Heliod opponent can't even multi-block to do it, and we see that they've got an Ancient Tomb, they've got Prevent the Next 2 damage on that one land, and then they've got 0 cards in hand. So both these worms go at Liliana, and I think that was enough for the Dimir player. They didn't want to handle it anymore, and then it doesn't take much more for our Heliod opponent to go, well, Ramp got this. Ooh, Ro, I gotta tell you, I've really enjoyed this deck. I feel like I say this every time I post an EDH deck tech, but this deck is a blast. Big thanks to the deck creator. The link to the deck list originally from that creator is down in the description below. If you wouldn't mind, we really appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed the video. It super helps us out. If you want to support us further, we have a Patreon. The link is down in the description below. And depending on when you're watching this, we've got a special running right now for anybody who joins. Let me get this all the way on the camera. We've got these logo shirts that are giving away for free for joining at any level. Make sure you go check out our Patreon so you can take advantage of that giveaway before it ends. If you want to hang out with us, we've got a Twitch. We're streaming most Tuesday and Thursday evenings over there. Come and chat us up and tell us what you want to see us play or make videos about. Other than that, I'm tapped out. We'll catch you later.